Welcome to News Briefs. Today is Tuesday, June 17th, 2025. We're looking at some major shifts, both globally and right here at home, and how they're sort of rippling outwards. So let's start with this big international story. The U.S. president cut his G7 trip short. What happened there? What was so urgent?
Yeah, that really caught everyone's attention. It was all about the escalating crisis between Iran and Israel. And what's really striking here is the president's stance. Very clear. He basically ruled out peace talks, at least for now.
No peace talks.
No. And stated quite definitively, actually, that Iran will never possess a nuclear weapon. A very strong line.
And this isn't just, back channel friction anymore, is it? We're actually talking direct attacks.
Exactly.
Hitting key infrastructure, I heard.
Yeah.
Like Iran's Natanz nuclear plant.
That's right, Natanz. I mean, targeting a facility like that, which everyone knows is central to their nuclear program,
Yeah.
monitored internationally. It's a huge step up.
Huge. What's the thinking there? What's the strategic implication?
Well, Prime Minister Netanyahu in Israel claims these strikes significantly delayed the Iranian nuclear program. That seems to be the immediate justification. But the wider picture, targeting a nuclear program directly like this, it really pushes boundaries.
Yeah.
Raises the risk of much wider conflict in the region, obviously. And it sets a complicated precedent for how nations might deal with sensitive facilities elsewhere.
And the human cost is already clear, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The preliminary figures we're seeing are, frankly, devastating. Reports suggest at least 200 fatalities in Iran
200.
and around 20 in Israel from the exchanges. These are early numbers, but significant.
Wow. So what are international bodies saying? The UN, the G7.
Well, the UN is, as you'd expect, urgently calling for calm, for de-escalation. And the G7 nations, including the U.S., of course, they put out a joint statement,
Okay.
specifically calling for de-escalation in the Middle East, trying to pull things back from the brink, essentially. It's a very tense, very delicate situation.
Right. A lot of balancing required there between trying to stop proliferation and, preventing all-out war.
Precisely. Miscalculation is a huge risk right now.
Okay, let's pivot from those high international stakes for a moment. Let's bring it closer to home. There's been a big development, I understand, on the opioid crisis front.
Yes, indeed. A really significant one. There have been a major agreement reached. It involves Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family.
Ah, Purdue and the Sacklers. Behind OxyContin.
The very same. They've agreed to pay an enormous sum, $7.4 billion.
Billion.
Yes, related to their role in the opioid crisis.
That's huge. Sets quite a precedent, doesn't it, for corporate accountability?
It really does. A landmark agreement in terms of holding companies accountable for, major public health crises.
Okay. And staying domestic, immigration seems to be another area with a lot of movement and maybe some confusion.
Definitely confusion. Yeah, quite a bit of back and forth. There was an initial directive, you might remember, that prevented ICE raids on certain places, farms, hotels, restaurants, sensitive locations.
Right, I remember that.
Well, that was actually revoked, pulled back.
Corrupt. So raids are back on?
Seems so. The instruction now is for ICE agents to proceed with raids as before. And this is happening while the president is still vocally pushing for mass deportations.
So a lot of uncertainty for people on the ground, I imagine.
Absolutely. And you can see the impact already. Take Ventura, California, for example.
Yeah.
Reports there show labor absenteeism, people just not showing up for work out of fear, is somewhere between 25% and 40% in certain sectors.
Wow, up to 40%. That's huge.
Huge economic impact right there. And in Los Angeles, there were protests that actually led to a curfew being reduced. And then there are the really personal stories. You hear about Sergeant Isaac. He was finally reunited with his wife, Shirley. She'd been deported to Honduras, even though she was apparently trying to regularize her status.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It just brings home the human dimension of these policy shifts. It's not abstract.
No, definitely not. And of course, all this tension, these big shifts, global, domestic, they always hit the economy, don't they?
They certainly do. We're seeing global markets reacting. U.S. markets, European markets, they're generally down. There's nervousness.
Okay.
But oil is up. That often happens with Middle East tensions. WTI, that's West Texas Intermediate, is trading at $82.82. And Brent crude, the sort of global benchmark, is at $74.34.
Right. And gold, usually a safe haven.
Interestingly, gold saw a slight retreat. It's down a bit to $339.70 an ounce. So a mixed picture, but definitely showing the strain.
Okay. Now, moving beyond the sort of immediate political and economic headlines, there are always fascinating developments in tech and science, and also some new warnings, too. What's caught your eye?
Well, on the innovation front, something quite interesting is the Air Force's new contract with a company called Divergent Technologies.
Divergent Technologies, what do they do?
They have this system called DAPS. It uses artificial intelligence and 3D printing. The idea is to massively speed up how defense and aerospace components are developed and made.
AI and 3D printing for defense.
Exactly. Think about rapidly designing, testing, printing new parts, maybe even entirely new kinds of aircraft or equipment, much faster than before. It could potentially shift how defense manufacturing even works. Really cutting-edge stuff.
Interesting. But you mentioned warnings, too.
Yes. On a more concerning note, there's a new alert out about resistant fungal superbugs.
Fungal superbugs, like
Yeah.
antibiotic resistance, but fungi.
Precisely. And the suspicion, the link they're looking at, is the heavy use of fungicides in agriculture.
Ah, so what we spray on crops might be breeding resistance in fungi that can then affect humans.
That's the worry. It raises some really important public health questions, doesn't it, about, the unintended side effects of our environmental and agricultural practices.
Yeah, absolutely. That interconnectedness again.
It is.
And finally, switching gears completely, a story that got a lot of attention in the sports world seems to have reached its conclusion.
Yes, the Shohei Ohtani story. His former interpreter.
Right, the gambling and theft allegations.
Exactly. He's now been sentenced 5 years in prison
5 years?
for stealing nearly $17 million from Ohtani.
Yeah.
It's a staggering breach of trust.
Absolutely staggering. So quite a range of events we've covered today.
Yeah.
From, major geopolitical crises and potential nuclear standoffs down to shifts in domestic policy affecting individual lives, economic jitters, tech breakthroughs, health scares.
It really does underscore how interconnected everything is, doesn't it?
It really does.
Decisions made in one capital, a scientific discovery, even changes happening at a microbial level. They ripple outwards. They touch the economy, global stability, our personal safety, our health. It's all linked.
Yeah. Makes you think, doesn't it? How these seemingly separate threads, the tension in the Middle East, the fear driving absenteeism in California, the fungicide use, the AI printing plane parts, how might they actually be influencing each other in ways we don't even fully grasp yet?
Exactly. And how quickly those influences can cascade through the system. It's something to keep watching, definitely. What connections are we missing right now?